Welcome to the Visionary Sister Circle with Dr. L, a space for women who are ready to heal, evolve, and rise into their power. Rooted, whole, and unapologetically aligned. Here, we honor truth. Here, we honor transformation. And it is here where we honor every woman who has ever carried more than her fair share and still found a way to stand. Welcome to the Visionary Sister Circle. My name is Dr. L, and I want to start this episode off by saying thank you. Thank you to everyone who has shared their love, their joy, and their support and their feedback for my first episode, which was, I would say, really a release. It has been part of my healing journey. And I'm so thankful that you all have been in a space to receive my message and to also welcome this new venture. So thank you all for your support, for your love, for your feedback, and for the joy. Be sure to pass it on. I'm on Apple Podcasts. I'm also on Spotify. The audio clips will also be heard on my YouTube channel, Disruptive Visionary, and on my website, disruptivevisionary.org. So, before we take up this space together, I want to take a moment to just acknowledge our ancestors and the divine spirits that, for me, continue to protect and guide and help me continue to push through and do the work that needs to be done so I can share my messages with you all. So let's do a small exercise just to clear our hearts. I want you to take one hand and place it on your chest, over your heart, and one on your belly. Then take in one deep breath and hold it. And on the release, let the breath soften the edges of your day. I'm hoping this Sunday has been a glorious day for you, as it is for me. And the information I'm going to share in this episode of Unhealed Pain and how it becomes inherited pain. So, because this episode is an invitation, it's not to judge anyone about where you've been or who you once were, but to finally understand it. And so it's important that we understand that we're stepping into one of the most tender, complicated, and transformative places in a woman's life. And we're going to discuss it here. And that is the mother womb. Now, the mother womb is something that we have inherited. It's what we carry and it's what we pass down without knowing. It's not a blame situation. It is an emotional and psychological space. While it often comes up in spaces where there's a strained or an unfulfilled relationship with our mothers. And I'm not necessarily going in that direction. So however it comes up for you and however it speaks and resonates with you, I want us to really think about how we can begin to break the cycle and breaking the cycle gently, honestly, and intentionally. So a lot of us, and recently I've been doing some research and just getting a little more information on the mother wound and my role as a mother and how my mother's presence in my life played a part in how I have been raising my children. And so for many of us, it's not something that we were taught. It is something that we live. And it often shows up in the way that we were raised to be strong. And I mentioned this in episode 1. Strong without the softness. And it shows up in the pressure to sacrifice without complaining. And it also shows up in the silence around our needs. and in the emotional labor that we absorb before we can even identify or acknowledge what responsibility or accountability is or was. You see, we learned motherhood before we even became mothers. We learned survival before we ever learned how to rest and care for ourselves. And when we finally stepped into motherhood, some of us walked in with bruises that we didn't see. There were patterns that many of us didn't recognize, and there were expectations that were shaped by generations that came before us. So again, I want everyone to understand that this episode is not about blame. I'm not blaming anyone because I had an amazing mother, and I know that my mother did what she could do with what she had in the best way that she could. And so it's really about awareness, because if we're not aware of things, then nothing will ever change. Am I right? Okay. Well, the first thing I'm going to discuss is my own truth. And I know I shared an experience in my youth in episode 1, as well as some traumatic experiences that took place in the amazing women in my life. And so I had, many of you may know me, I have 3 children. And when I was in my 20s, I was a young mother. And so when I was in my late 20s, I had a reading, Mr. Carl. And he told me that I would have 3 children. But after I laughed, I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe he's talking about like my godchild. And, at that time, my partner, he had, a daughter. So I'm thinking, hey, he's seeing 3 because of the young people that were surrounding me. And so there was no real, I didn't really put too much into being labeled or thinking about there being a time when I would be a mother of 3. But anyway, motherhood didn't meet me in one version of myself. My children are spaced apart, and if you know them, you know that they are my everything, and they have shaped me into who I am. Whether some may say good, bad, I'm not a perfect parent, I'm not a perfect mother, but I'm the best mother that I know how to be. And each pregnancy, so when I was young, my first pregnancy, it carried different circumstances. Second and third, there were different emotions and different levels of support. And there was a lack of support as well. But there were times where, phew, like many of you, I was under emotional and psychological stress, not really addressing it, not really understanding what it was, especially when I was younger. There were times where I felt like I was alone, or no one really understood where I was coming from, or I masked my emotions. Um, and there were times where I didn't have the tools. I didn't even, like, as strong as I am today, I can look back and say, I'm a little more prepared and emotionally grounded, more so to be a grandmother now than I was as a single mother at one point, a young single mother. And so each one of my big 3, which is what I call them, each one arrived during a different chapter of my life, or they were a different version. They came during a time when I was a different version of me. And so I honestly, they know it. They are my gifts. They are my gifts to the world. And each one of them came with I like to say, a divine or a secret assignment. And they're all spiritually gifted and blessed, and they all come with a purpose that I could feel. And there are times I get very emotional when I think about them. And I didn't understand it before, but I really do, because they are beautiful spiritual beings. And if you really think about it, our children tend to meet us where our healing left off, or where that space um exists. And motherhood forces us, and sometimes it painfully forces us, to grow beyond it. And that's kind of, it's a challenge to recognize, but it's also truth. And and so when I think about what I inherited, beside the strength and the resilience and the courage of the women in my life, um, I also think about unhealed pain, and how it is inherited pain. It's not because we're careless, or not because we're unloving, but it's because we are spiritual beings taking up human space. If that makes sense, I hope it resonates with you, because, like me, many of us became mothers before we were even healed women. You know, my first child was born when I was 21, the chosen one. And my second was born when I was 35, my miracle child. And my last one, my youngest, was born when I was 37. He is my blessing. And so I didn't, you know, I didn't know what to expect. I'm thinking, each one, but because every situation was different, it brought different triggers, I guess you could say. It brought different needs. It brought different voids. It brought some pain, some distress. And I didn't necessarily know what I was navigating as far as my identity as a mother, as a seasoned woman. And so I don't want to get too far off in a tangent, but when we think about our children and how they're so innocent, but they're the mirrors, right? They are the mirrors, and they are the ones that um, reflect everything that has not been resolved in us, right? They are that reflection that we sometimes want to shy away from, but that reflection is not failure, right? It's actually progress. It's the first step that we take toward breaking generational patterns. And so, a little bit more in connecting, I want to make sure I'm connecting the dots, and I want to make sure that everyone is understanding. And again, this is part of my healing process. I have spent hours. There would be days where I would just be an emotional wreck, not in a bad way, because I'm just thinking about, number one, how blessed I am to be a mother, but to be the mother of three amazing human beings, or spiritual beings in a human space. But when I was getting more into learning about the mother wound, and how I show up as a parent, sometimes that mother wound can hide the emotional distance that we all experience. It could also it could hide uh, difficulty expressing our needs. Um, some of us have guilt for whatever reason, and sometimes that mother wound will really, it will it'll show up, in various ways, but it it also shows up in how we pour into everyone else and forget about ourselves. That's major. And in my case, choosing partners who reflect old emotional wounds. And, um, I guess one episode will be about the father wound, but and it also shows up as parenting from fear instead of instead of trusting ourselves and being okay with who we are and what we have to give and being okay with failure, right? Because sometimes parenting comes with there's no manual, right? But sometimes we parent, or many times. I know there was a period in my life where I was parenting from exhaustion, pure exhaustion, and that wasn't good for me because with my children, they brought an abundance of joy to my life, but I was just tired. And I was tired of doing it alone. I was tired of doing it from a deficit space. And so, what I've learned is that recognizing that these patterns, um, they're not a penalty. They're not a punishment. They are us recognizing who we are. In my case, recognizing the mother that I am now versus the mother that I was 30 something years ago. And it's been a form of liberation for me. It really has been an awakening. I guess that's the best way to put it, an awakening. And then watching again, I've attended YouTube University, like many other people, and there's some fantastic uh, videos and a lot of information all over, where men and women have talked about healing the mother wound and how it's not a one-time thing. It's not a one-shot deal. It's about consistency. It's about intention, and it's about um, slow progress. Right? It's not going to happen overnight. And when we really think about what the healing looks like for me, again, it was a lot of tears, but it was learning, for me, learning how to really speak my truth, right? And to address the parts of me that did not feel safe, the parts of me that was emotionally distant, the parts of me that overcompensated, and also about building boundaries and setting the space for taking care of me. And you know a lot of us don't know how can I say it, give ourselves grace, especially if we didn't know what that looked like, right? And so part of my healing has been giving myself grace and recognizing what I did that was good. Decisions that I made that maybe weren't the best decisions, but they were decisions that I made at that time. And also, giving myself grace and understanding that parenting doesn't have to come from a survival mode, right? It should be a thriving, abundant, and prosperous space. But the biggest thing has been about letting love in and not expecting it to be a gotcha or something that is going to be harmful, right? So it's kind of like, and many of us, many of you who are listening, may be in the off season. And I say the off season because your children may be grown. Many of us are grandparents, but then there are some who are listening who are just starting out. And this is a space for you to really understand you have the opportunity to reparent, right? Even if it's reparenting, guess what? Reparenting yourself. Because every every breakthrough that you have, it becomes a gift to your children, to your grandchildren, and to yourself. And it's not something that you have to be, you have to feel like you're being judged on, or criticized about, or anything like that. We all deserve a reset, right? And so in each episode, and in this whole journey, the Visionary Sister Circle is really about, as I said, and I will continue to say, it's about healing. It's not just about me talking, or, it's about me sharing, but as I'm sharing and as I'm releasing, I am, I'm healing, right? I'm healing. And I'm hoping that the same thing happens for you. And so if you have been following me, it's been, I guess you could say, a labor of love each month. But I take my time and I create a newsletter that speaks to the energy of the month. I started a new section this in November, and it was like, different teas that I'm drinking. And, it may sound selfish, but it's really, all of this stuff is coming from my experiences. And the tea ritual that I'm really trying to, because I'm a coffee drinker. I have to be honest. But I tried to drink tea just to calm myself, to cleanse myself, detoxing and all that. Um, but there are some teas that are really amazing, and they help with this work, like um, chamomile, lavender, and lemon balm. And I haven't tried lemon balm. I have tried chamomile. Lavender, I'm not necessarily a fan, but whatever your choice is, right? I want you to try and take some time, give yourself grace, think about your experiences and what you have been through, and how the grounding needs to take place. And so when you sip your tea, and sip it slowly, I want you to continuously say in your head, your affirmation is to release what was never yours. Release what was never mine to hold. That's the message. I release what was never mine to hold, and I honor the woman that I am becoming. Let me say it again. I release what was never mine to hold, and I honor the woman I am becoming. And with my healing, some of you may be in this practice. I do have a journal. Oh my goodness, if I could publish my journal, that would be, it would be amazing. But I try to journal at least 4 times a week. Sometimes it's a struggle, but with my journaling, I pull my goddess cards. Shout out to Dr. Giovanni Washington for creating the Black Goddess card deck. It has been it has been comforting, and I always feel connected to my ancestors when I'm pulling my cards. But I want you to think about, journaling if you're not. And if you are, or if you're interested in doing so, I have a prompt for you. And the prompt is, what did I need most as a child? And how can I offer that to myself today? What did I need most as a child? And how can I offer that to myself today? And just write whatever comes to mind. If there are tears that come with it, if it's it's all reflective, but it's your truth, and it's your opportunity to reparent and make space to heal yourself, and 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 cleanse the mother wound. There's a quote by Rumi, and it said, "The wound is where the light comes in." And I'm like, when I heard it the first time, I didn't really connect it. But when I thought about it, it's like, wow, we're open, But when we're open, that's when the light, that's when divine source speaks to us and heals us from the inside out. And so I guess I feel like I shared some of it with you. I'm more than honored. I'll say that. I'm more than honored to be able to share my experiences and especially with my big three, being a single mother the first time and really not knowing, but knowing. I guess because, I watched the women in my life and I was able to continue to do what I needed to do to shape and love and comfort and nurture not one but three amazing spirits. And so by the time number two, my miracle child came along, she was a surprise, and I wasn't anticipating. I thought that I wouldn't be able to get pregnant again because of my medical diagnosis. And I don't know if anyone out there is a PCOS sister, but know that I have been a PCOS sister for over 20 years, and there is hope. I was told that I would never be able to have children. And, the rest is history, right? And then that was an experience as an older, more, let me say it again, as a seasoned woman. And so there were some complications with my pregnancy, but the beautiful spirit that came out of that experience she's a joy to behold. And then there's number three. There's my youngest, and I he gave me permission. So we're gonna spend some time on a future episode and talk about how the stress of womanhood and how the stress, I'll say this, my marriage at that time was very stressful. There was a lot that was going on, and it came through my baby in my womb. And he was he was born with club feet. He was very tense. He, quite the contrast from my second child. And so this is why it's important for me to get this out and let you all know that motherhood didn't break me. It definitely transformed me. And I never expected to be free, even though I had a reading, I never expected to be a mother of three. Um, but I am the woman who I am now, and I honor the mother that I was the first time from 21 all the way up. And so um, the legacy that I'm leaving and that I'm determined to leave is being built or rebuilt in this case, or I guess you could say renovated. It's being done with intention. And I want to say to every woman, and there are some men who are listening, and I thank y'all. And hopefully, this will be a space where you can share and learn and support the women in your lives. But this part in particular is for every woman who's listening. Understand something. You deserve healing. You deserve the softness. You deserve support. And you deserve the version of motherhood that doesn't leave you empty. And also understand that whatever you experience with your own mothers, that has to be healed in order for you to be able to get to the space where you can heal as a mother. I hope that makes sense. Um, and to my babies, to my big three, I love that. I love you all so much, and I'm thankful that They have been my first teachers, um, and the mirrors of my soul and my greatest gifts. And so, with that, I want to say thank you. Thank you for allowing me to share this space again. Thank you for continuously supporting me. And I hope that you are on your own healing journey. I will be offering some group sessions starting in January of 2026. But in the meantime, please be good to yourselves so that you can be amazing to someone else. And so, I'm Dr. L. And remember, the circle is open.